Hi everyone. I'm just gonna come on today, and for anybody who's watching this after it's been recorded, um, welcome to my channel. And I wanted to connect with my master guide Oliver and talk about a few things for a moment. Um, I'll probably be here for about 20 minutes, and I really wanted to share this with you. My guides actually insisted that I come on online now. So I feel like there's something very, very important that is taking place that would benefit a whole lot of people long after this video is recorded. The shift that is taking place within me is profound, and my master guides are coming through now to talk about the way we love ourselves should have no boundaries. So I think Oliver is just going to come in and talk about that right now. I have no problem blowing filters on people's master beliefs, because if their master beliefs are wrong, sort of ingrained from parents and upbringing in childhood and cultural or religious spiritual beliefs, or just something they picked up from somebody that just kind of stuck with them because they're vibrating at that frequency or whatever, and it's an illusion to protect them from some sort of pain that they have mastered to suppress, then I have no problem blowing filters on people, and I'll tell them that it's not true, that that's just something they believe to cover up the pain that they've created within themselves. Because let's be honest, everybody at some point feels some sort of trauma, whether it's childhood upbringing, or whether it's an experience that happened to them, or whether it's just something that someone said one day and it completely, like you hear these stories all the time where somebody completely has shifted a part of their life out of balance because of something a bully said, or something that they felt was true and somebody just pushed them over the edge, and they start to blame that somebody. But the truth is, and here's the spiritual truth, this could not have resonated with that person unless it has internally begun to fester as a wound. So it had to first be internally experienced, and then externally sort of triggered, or it's almost like, it's like manifestation. You can manifest in a negative way or a positive way, and then you put enough energy into those thoughts, and eventually what starts to happen is it sort of like manifests itself outwards, either gradually or with this sense of pride. You sort of walk into a room one day and you feel that your internal reality has suddenly become your external reality. So it sort of expresses itself outwards without you even knowing how it happened, and it happens quickly. When you shift from internal trauma, I'm going to call it trauma, to sort of external trauma, that's how bad things begin to happen to you. Hello. And so these external realities that begin to sort of manifest outwardly are just a sign of what's going on internally. And people aren't negatively aware of themselves early on in their life. They're sort of just existing in it without having very much awareness of it. Emotionally, they're aware, but mentally or perceptually, they're not very aware of what's going on. People, when they're born, when they come into the world, they're very impressionable. They absorb the energy within the environment they are in, and it's very easy to project energy into them. So children are born with this way of just being. And so their environment molds them. And when trauma starts to occur within that impressionable age, that's what you would call like there is a separation that happens, because nobody wants to be in a state of trauma. They want to be in a state of joy and blissfulness. That's our nature, to be in a state of joyfulness and blissfulness, and following our path. Our natural nature is to follow the path of good feeling and well-being. So to be in a state of trauma, even for a moment, is terrifying for a child. When you have trauma that is suppressed because of our dissociative natures, because trauma is not our nature, blissfulness is our nature. And so we often, almost always, disassociate from the thing that hurt us, or the thing that pains us. But this thing that pained us could not have been there in the first place if it wasn't first internal. So you see, by the trauma that occurs to a person is already internal and simply expresses itself outwards. So people disassociate from the trauma, but it's still internal because it was internal in the first place. So this is some profound information. If you can understand, if you have ears and eyes to see this, you will know it. It's meant to shift. I just sit in it for a minute. It's meant to shift perception, because shifting perception is the biggest power a human being can have in the physical world. Shifting perception. When you allow yourself to shift perception of what happened to you, then you can pull out of the negative perception that might be causing you pain or continuing the trauma externally, so that you tend to associate the trauma with a person. But actually, in actuality, what is happening is, and bear with me, this will be hard to understand for so many people, but this is the eternal truth of existence. Growth is meant to happen no matter what you do. So just because something bad or negative, some internal commotion is asking you to change, it's going to start to play itself out naturally. Like if I disassociated myself from my father, who was abusive in some sort of way, and he caused me trauma, then I will suppress wanting to connect with him, because, and here is the epiphany for everybody. Because if I connect with him, it will cause me pain. So let me just back up for a second. The need to connect in a loving way is still there. You with me so far? The need to connect to him is there internally, always. But I can't, because it hurts. So we disassociate from dad and therefore never fulfilling the need to connect in the most loving way, which is ultimately what the pain of dissociation is telling you. So that's the human internal dilemma.
Mama, don't make me get in.
Okay, baby.
Mama, just drop in the season.
That's okay, baby. Do you want a napkin?
Sit on me.
You with me so far? Yeah. Yes, I am. So it's internal. So it plays itself out internally and externally. Yeah. Hi, Glendy. Hi, Glendy. Yeah, I've been meaning to come on for a while. It seems like divine timing today. So,
Mama.
Oliver, um, okay. I can feel that. I can feel what you're saying.
Open this.
It's almost like it's almost like what you're saying is almost too much. Yeah, let's take a breather for a moment. Okay. Hey, baby, do you want to have this one?
Mama, 7 minutes to fly.
Oh, look at that. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
I feel like I need to take a deep breath after that. Okay.
Wow.
Good job, Baba.
Good one.
Oliver. So, no questions about that. So just continue. So I feel like there's a momentum about what you're saying. Dissociative trauma. So you are in need to connect, but you can't because it hurts.
Wow.
So the need to connect
It's keys,
is
Mama.
never fulfilled. And so you can...
Look, it's keys.
I know, baby. I'm talking to some friends. Okay? Mama is on the phone talking to some friends. Look at those keys.
It's so...
Look at... It's 1, 2, 3.
One.
Dissociative trauma is going to bring you really, really low. And no matter how hard you try, it's like disowning a part of yourself that is always there. Yeah. Yeah. And so you're going to continue to feel depressed. Depression is probably the number one, because you're suppressing an emotion. So the need to connect, you're suppressing the need to connect because it hurts. Yes. Okay, so you're with me on this. Yeah. Yes. So how do you, so what do you do? So what's the question?
What?
The question is, how do you feel into the pain? Because that's what you need to do. So how do you feel into the pain?
Look. And look it in.
You ready for the big one? Yeah. You're not allowed to judge the pain itself. Okay, are you ready? Okay. At the time that the trauma occurred, either you or somebody who was taking care of you judged the trauma. Okay, and if it happened if it was a moment in time, then it's easier to recover. But if you have a trauma, or anybody you know has a trauma that occurred over, like abuse that's occurred over a longer stretch of time, chances are the longer it goes on, the more judgment you've encountered, either from yourself, from within, some part of you internalizing the pain and disassociating from it because it hurts, and so that's creating fear of the pain. And so fear will make excuses and judgments, and that's how we push away something from ourselves. This isn't good for us, I shouldn't be treated this way. And infinitely you can go on to fear, and it'll make big and small excuses, whatever works. And so the number one thing to know is not to judge the pain in itself, because it's like saying, I have
Work. I found something.
it's like saying that I shouldn't have to need to connect. But the need is fundamental. It's part of
Open this, Mama.
the physical experience. So like eating food is part of the physical experience. So connecting with people is arguably the most like you depend on your parents. Yeah. You depend on your parents when you're born. Right? So connecting to your parents is attached to survival. It's fundamental. Yes. So it's like saying you shouldn't need to eat food. Uh-oh, I have to go off for a minute, guys. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Oh no.
Let's go. Whee!
What, do you want some water?
Open this, Mama.
Hi, everybody. Sorry. I had to take my daughter to the bathroom. Yes, baby. Here, give it here. Oliver, dissociative trauma. So, what I was saying earlier,
Open this one, Mama.
it's like saying you shouldn't, say you go to a restaurant and eat a fantastic meal, but it ends up making you sick. Say the steak wasn't cooked properly, and then you're sick, puking up. Fundamentally, you wouldn't want to eat anything after that, right? That's natural not to want to connect because it hurt, right? Yeah. But what happens when you get hungry and you gotta go eat at the restaurant again? I would be scared of getting sick. I probably wouldn't go to the same restaurant. What if that was the only restaurant that was ever open? Oh my God. That's what dissociative trauma. You would wait till you're very, very hungry, right? And you would eat very slowly, right? You wouldn't eat very much. And what if, and here's the thing, what if once in a while you would continue to get sick? Maybe not every time you ate there, but you continue to get sick. I'd go in the kitchen and I'd complain. And what if Okay. And what if it went on death? This is perfect example of fatherly abuse. What if it went on deaf ears? And no matter how hard you cried and complained and it got in there and got in arguments and whatever, nothing ever changed. It still continued to poison you as you ate there.
Open this one, Mama.
I don't know. I would stop trying. I think my diet would. I think I would suffer as a result physically.
Please,
And yeah.
open this one.
So where is this going then? The need to eat would always be there because you're physical. The need to connect to other people physically, especially mother, father, family, is fundamental. It doesn't go away.
Look at
Right.
that,
So that's like
Mama.
suppressed. So
Look.
that's like suppressed in me, I feel.
Those griffins.
It's not just suppressed. It's not just suppressing is one thing. Okay. Do you want to release this? Are you asking me? Yes. Yes, I do. So we're going to do a live healing then. Okay.
This is got horse too, Mama.
So when you have a moment, we're going to channel the Elohim for this, for everybody that's involved, that want to participate, to release the judgment you have on the trauma itself. Okay? So it can come up for healing today. Okay. So that it can come to the surface, yeah? Sure.
Don't
Sure.
shoot
Because
under.
judgment protects you from the pain, right? It's discernment. People call it discernment, but it's not. So is this going to kill me or not? It's the survival instinct, right? But human beings are evolving past survival. If you were to look at all spiritual subjects on the planet today from before Buddha, okay? All of it is evolving past survival instinct. Human beings, when they are ready, learn to transcend the responses they have within them surrounding the subject of survival, which is very biological. You know, when you sense danger, your heart rate goes up and you have fight or flight mode, and all sorts of biological things happen within the brain and in the body. Okay, during trauma, you have very similar response, obviously, right? So when you feel that the need for the very thing that hurt you comes up, you have these biological responses, okay? So you got really violently sick from eating a meal. Let's just go back to the fundamental, easy to digest example. You got violently sick from eating food. Some people, every time they saw steak, this happens with alcohol. When people abuse alcohol, this is an easier example. You drink Bacardi, you get super sick. The smell of Bacardi for years will make your stomach turn and you will run the other way, right? But what if you were an alcoholic and you had the need to drink, right? You'd eventually get back to Bacardi. Eventually. Especially if you're a party drinker where you would go to events or clubs or social gatherings. So, with that being said, with that being said, the smell of Bacardi would literally have a biological response. Yes. Okay. So the need to connect to people often is associated with trauma. So every time the need to connect to people, you get what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah, I do. It literally triggers a fight or flight response sometimes, or a whole lot of fear within the body. It's like paralyzing you. I can't connect because I'm going to get hurt. And it's almost like because it's happened. So when you learn to drive, at first it's an overwhelming experience full of fear because you're driving a 5,000-pound machine and it feels huge. When you get in a car for the first time, it just feels huge and you're in charge and there's so many other vehicles and you don't know what the hell they're going to do because you're not used to driving. But give it 2 years, 3 years, and it's automatic. You drive home and you don't even know how you got there because you're so lost thinking about your boyfriend or something or what you got to do at school tomorrow. And before you know it, you're home and you didn't even have to think about. Fight and flight is like that. Because the trauma is so old and you've done this 1,000 times, this fear is almost like unconscious. It just kind of happens. It just kind of happens. So then you have this physical discomfort just connecting to people. And it could be a random stranger. It could be an intimate lover. It could be your child or your uncle or whomever. A lot of people feel anxiety just being in the same room as other people without even having to talk. To a point where to some people, it's literally debilitating, where they cannot go out, they cannot socialize. And a lot of people drink. A lot of people drink to cover this pain up. Oh my God. And so the only way they can socialize is by drinking. So people will get together and drink together because that's the only way they can actually relax. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm channeling Master Guide Oliver for anybody who's watching me that it's like a back and forth conversation. What I'm saying is people have anxiety for all sorts of reasons that they're not aware of. And connecting to someone can bring a whole lot of anxiety to people.
How this?
Okay. Within the body, just fear in itself. Am I going to get hurt? And so, let's come back full circle now. Okay? Okay, you ready for this one? This is the big one. The one that's going to not allow you to disassociate from the trauma itself anymore. When you feel anxious around people and scared, when the fear comes up of, am I going to get hurt here? Am I safe here? So fear has an infinite amount of ways of trying to get away from that pain and that feeling of anxiety and trauma that comes up, but it's the last thing you want to do, right? So when fear comes up, it has super awesome ways of getting you away from anything that could potentially hurt you, that's hurt you in the past. So like an abusive dad, so you couldn't connect to dad, but you have a need to connect to people. So then you experience trauma, right? That's what we're doing so far. So when the fear comes up, say a boyfriend, or an ex-lover, or like even a friend from like a long time ago or something, and they're standing right beside you and you're feeling like you don't know what to say, your palms are getting sweaty, and you're feeling super anxious about just talking to them, about just answering questions, like you feel like you have to think really hard because you don't like the way you feel. Okay? Do not judge the fear. And fear, fear, when it feels judged, it will try to suppress itself. Okay? Because if I'm not accepted, then I'm rejected, then I cannot exist, then I do not exist. So fear in its essence is saying that it is not okay to exist within this space, within this moment, doing this thing or whatever it is. So pain will tell you that you're actually disassociating from yourself that was hurt, right? So if you judge the pain or the fear, you're again disassociating from it. And in essence, you are doing what your dad was doing to yourself. So that's how victims continue to abuse themselves. That's how it happens. If you got it all, that's great. If you want to rewind the video, that's great. In essence, do not judge the pain. And when it comes up, let it feel uncomfortable. Let it feel uncomfortable. In fact, the more you allow the fear to be there and sort of not react, because fear has a way of, okay, so if you've rejected a person 1,000 times, how do you think they're going to feel? Like, say, okay, an ex-lover is a perfect example, okay? How many times have you rejected that person? If they walked into a room with you, right? Or maybe they've rejected you. And so when you walk into a room with them, ex-lover is a perfect example. Would you feel uncomfortable? Yeah, okay. So what if you're doing it to yourself and you've rejected yourself 1,000 times? And so this part of you that is constantly being rejected, that wants to connect to people, has always been rejected. How do you think this part of you will feel around people? I cannot exist. I'm going to feel rejected. So the moment that you don't reject, what's going to happen? It's going to come up. It's going to come up for healing. So in essence, you are no longer suffering from the pain. And so in essence, the pain is actually going to remarkably dissolve the more you practice this. So something contradictory is going to happen where the pain will actually get bigger, and all the fears you've ever suppressed will come up, because they'll line up like at the checkout. Okay, oh hey, we don't have to be here anymore. We're checking out. Let's line up. So every part of consciousness that is associated with this trauma will come up for healing. So the moment you stop judging and you allow yourself to feel that anxiety and feel the reason why let me just get into the reason why people don't do this, because it fucking hurts. And you will avoid this pain like you've been avoiding this pain all your life, but in essence you're running from it and doing the same thing that the thing that caused you to feel pain in the first place was doing. You're doing the same thing. So it's like a wall that you just never get over. And let me tell you, from a spiritual point of view, from a master guide point of view, I've said this 1,000 times, this wall will be there until you get over the wall. The wall will never go away. And people die before this wall ever comes down. People die from poison. So wall will be there until you decide to feel the pain. It will not go away. In fact, the only reason that the wall is there is for you to feel it. And I know it sounds like craziness, like I'm a maniac, but this in essence is the truth. When you can feel the pain and not judge it, then you can release it. And every associative pain that you've created over years or a lifetime will come up. So this could be a long process, or you could do it overnight. It really depends on how fed up you are with the suffering that comes from running away from the pain. And here is the beautiful thing about it. When you really sink into your pain and chase it and almost stay with it no matter what it does, you start to feel loved, because you are in essence allowing yourself to be, which is the essence of love. The essence of love is all acceptance of all existence, of all that is. So love has no boundaries, if that makes sense. There is nothing that I cannot accept. When I'm connected to love, there is nothing that I cannot accept. And I've seen people accept the most horrific things within themselves and others. So love has no boundary. That's the beautiful thing about love. People have boundaries and physicality has boundaries. Love has no boundaries. So that means all is accepted. When you learn to do this within yourself, you start to feel the love, because you're no longer judging. You're no longer saying you cannot exist. You cannot, I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to feel this. I don't want to feel what you have to bring to me. There is messages in the pain. Once you get into the process of releasing pain, there is messages in the pain. Like, I fundamentally is the...
Don't squish it.
Give it a moment. Okay. Fundamentally, yeah, you're letting go of the pain. So the pain in itself is a disalignment. And if there is a disalignment, it's asking for something. A disalignment is an unfulfilled need. So what is the need in the pain? It's something fundamental. And it has to do with love. Always. Alignment is always pure love and acceptance. So it always comes back to love. So in this example, it would be something like, I want to feel safe to love. I want to be able to love and feel safe about it. I want to be able to feel loved and allow it and feel safe about it. I don't want to hurt when I love, or I don't want to hurt when I'm loved. I don't want to hurt when I connect with a loved one. I want it to be safe so that I don't feel pain or rejection when I feel it. So this becomes your fundamental existence. So let me just say this. Anything you suppress grows bigger. If this video doesn't resonate with you, what you're experiencing and the trauma you're experiencing will grow bigger. And you will literally feel alone. To a point of, what's the point of being here? Depression, anxiety. And it gets worse. Suicidal thoughts, suicide, threatening other people's lives. Things that just, the more you reject yourself, the worse it gets. And thus you see these problems in the world. And essentially, it is asking for love. You get that, right? That it's asking for love. So love says that I allow this to be. I validate my feelings by feeling them. So when you wanna, so let me just say how to connect to these disassociated from me parts. When you sit with a loved one, say you have a good relationship, and you sit with a loved one and it feels healthy and it feels good, and you're spending time together and you are connecting, what are you in essence doing? When it feels okay, so let me just when everybody is in life have had these moments where you're just being with someone that you care about and they care about you, and it just feels good and you're just there together and it just feels like love. It feels like a loving conversation or a loving time. So you're in essence just being with them. So just being with your feelings and experiencing the feelings and allowing to release them brings back that disassociated from part. Let me quickly say 2 more things about this and then I'm going to go off live because it's bedtime. What you suppress grows bigger and expresses itself outwards. Okay. And here comes the bigger epiphany. When somebody brings you pain, and this pain kind of goes inside and stays within you, it has to be expressed outwards to such a degree that it is expressed outwards. And expressed as in pressed out of you. So when you see this with children or with animals very clearly, when you yell at your kid, very shortly after, you will see them get angry, maybe at the playground, or maybe at you, or maybe at the cat, or maybe some other day, or it could be 5 minutes later. The love you put into them is also expressed. When you are loving with your kid, they come back and love you, or they love the cat, or they love the kid at the playground. So what was put into you, you express until the energy is gone, and then you become neutral again.
Mama,
Yes,
I
baby.
want to play yours. The iPod's dead.
The iPad's dead. Okay, baby, we gotta charge it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. Is that it, Oliver? Yes. That's fundamentally. Fundamentally.
Mama, it's dead. See? It's really dead, Mama.
I know, Bubba, we gotta charge the battery.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. And before I go, Oliver, I just want to say that this dissociation happens on all levels. It could be that dress you didn't buy. It could be the bread that you continue to buy.
Mama.
So it could be something you're doing to yourself on a regular basis you don't even think about that you're doing. So it's super important to understand that if you pick up a bread and it feels really heavy and it feels gross, it is not for your highest good. So it could be something you're doing or not doing. And the way you feel is the truth of who you really are. So you could avoid the pain and the messages in the pain and how you feel, right? Or you can embrace them and feel the messages in the pain. That's it. Okay. So be brave and go into it. So like when you're feeling depressed, let yourself feel depressed. Because it doesn't last forever unless you judge yourself. When you reject, then it lasts forever. When you allow and accept and just lay there with yourself, that's how you know what you actually needed in the first place. And it'll come up. It'll come up as long as you allow it. So you got to go into the feeling, like sink into it and feel into it and almost chase it. It's like, and then when it comes up somewhere else, get into it and feel into it and feel into it until it just kind of dissolves. Okay. Thank you guys. Have a good night.